Welcome, everyone. It's 6 o'clock on Monday night, and you're listening to the 75th installment of the Age Out Angels Radio Hour on www.hamiltonradio.net, Channel 2. I'm your host, Greg Rapport. I'm the founder and executive director of Age Out Angels, a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. Age Out Angels provides one-to-one mentors to vulnerable youth for the purpose of coordinating the care and services that they need to survive. We try to help young people avoid some of the horrible pitfalls that they're likely to face if they don't have a proper safety net. This program is brought to you every week at this same time, courtesy of Doc G, William Saunders, Ruben Rodriguez, and all the fine people here at Hamilton Radio who allow us to use this airtime. Doc G is on the big board tonight. So good to see you, Doctor. Do you believe 75 shows? This is our 75th show. My goodness, you would think we went to 6th grade together. This is our 75th show. Wow. We got to do something special for the 100th. Maybe some of our listeners will write in some suggestions about ways we could, offer a new car or something to one lucky listener. Of course, I'm dreaming now. Thank you so much at home for tuning in. We appreciate that. We've put together what I hope you will find to be an insightful and compelling view of the child welfare system. So get ready, because tonight on the radio hour, special visit from Lee RUSZCZYK, a gentleman of letters, LCSW Senior Director of Behavioral Health at the Henry J. Austin Health Center. Did I get that right?
You did. Very good.
Thank you so much for being here, Lee.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
It's a pleasure to have you. And let me just say, for those of you living outside of the Trenton area, I know inside Trenton you know what the Henry J. Austin Health Center is, but outside, this is the largest health center in the city. They see 19,000 patients a year, spanning over 61,000 visits. So if you stay with us tonight, what you're going to get is an inside view of what providing health care in an urban environment is all about. So what I want you to do is listen carefully now, because this show is being pre-recorded for air in February. So if you're looking at this in February and wondering why our Christmas tree is still up, it's not because we're the worst neighbors on the block. It's because we're actually recording this in December. So if it's December at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and you're watching this show, stop watching. We're just making an archival copy for Facebook and YouTube. If you're watching this on February 25th, then guess what? This is the cool part about doing a pre-recorded show. Lee, this is as close as you can come to time travel.
Cool.
What we're doing right here. This is December. We're watching it in February, but we'll all be watching it together. You, me, right? The listeners, everybody will all be watching it together on Facebook. So if the listeners want to write comments into the comments field, you and I will be able to answer those comments in real time.
Cool.
Right? So ain't technology wonderful? And here we are enjoying a little bit of time travel. So what is all this all boiled down to? Well, if you're looking at this, and if you're listening to this rather in February, that means you're on www.hamiltonradio.net. Means you're just getting the audio portion. Maybe find us on Facebook. Go to my name, Greg Rapport, and what you can do is when you get there, hit that share button. Or even better, email everyone in your address book and tell them what we're doing here. Tell them to go to www.hamiltonradio.net, Channel 2. Understanding the challenges affecting key medical centers is the only way we can think about improving the system. People love to complain, and I understand that, but also understanding what's going on is pretty important too. And I'll bet what you're going to hear is indicative of many urban areas. We're not alone here in Trenton, so this is information that deserves to be shared on a broad scale. Don't keep this private to yourself. And while you're doing that, let me remind you that we're here almost every Monday from 6 to 7 p.m. with the Age Out Angels Radio Hour. This is the last of our pre-recorded shows. We'll be back live on either March 4th or March 11th. It actually hasn't been decided yet, but I'll keep you posted on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. So follow us on all or one of those. Be sure to turn in every Monday at 6 p.m. for our unfiltered look at the child welfare system. This is where you come to get the whole truth. And I promise you, what you will hear tonight on this radio program, you are not going to hear on the nightly news. Shame you can't call in tonight, but remember, you can go to Facebook and write your comments, and we'll all be watching it together, and we can answer you in real time. So hit that share button on Facebook, the Henry J. Austin Health Center. So it's such a title.
Henry J for short.
Henry J. Okay, HJAHC, Henry J. Austin Health Center. I did it. I did a little research. Henry J. Austin, interesting, African American Princeton resident who came to Trenton. All right, so check it out. Right, you know this. I'm just telling you what you know. He came to Trenton to practice medicine because Jim Crow laws prohibited him from practicing in his own hometown. He was born in 1888 in Tallahassee, Florida. Was brought to Princeton as a young boy. Attended Howard University Medical School. Graduated in 1918. Completed his internship at Freeman's Hospital, which is now Howard University Hospital in Washington, D.C. Some historians credit Dr. Austin with helping to integrate Trenton schools. So pretty cool guy.
Very cool guy.
And the can you give us sort of the 30,000-foot view of what the Henry J. Austin Health Center does?
So the Henry J. Austin Health Center is actually 4 brick-and-mortar sites. We have our main site at 321 Warren Street. We have another site, 112 Ewing. Then we have 2 family practice buildings. One is in Bellevue Avenue, and the other one is on Chambers, across from Trenton. They're building Trenton High School. And basically, we are a primary care provider. We're a federally qualified health center, which basically means that we're not-for-profit. And we are there to service patients who are underserved, underinsured, unable to be insurance. We're there to provide them a range and a host of health care services at the sites.
Okay, so
that's the 30,000-foot view.
Right, and I was actually going to do it in one word. You are essentially the mothership of healthcare in the Trenton urban area.
That's the goal. The goal is to provide one-stop shop for health services.
Yeah.
So we have our primary care docs, we have the lab on site, we have a clinical pharmacy on site, we have dental on site, we have behavioral health on site, we have nutrition, we have podiatrist on site. So it really is about everybody receiving the best care and the best service and quality service at the health center, but being able to get everything met when they come in the door.
Absolutely. So you have 4 locations.
We have 4 brick and mortar locations.
Okay.
That are integrated. Behavioral health is integrated in with them. So that basically means that behavioral health works hand in hand with the medical providers and the medical teams, as well as all the other providers. So it's team-based care. It's not like going to your own primary care private provider and you see the doc and that's all you see. We work in conjunction as a team, so the behavioral health person and nutritionist and the clinical pharmacist and all the medical providers, we all work together to provide service to the patient.
So I want to give our listeners a sort of a picture image of what all this looks like.
Sure.
So each of your 4 facilities, are they like huge places? And I'm imagining in my head when I say huge, like, hospital large.
No, they're not hospital large. It's so the one that's on Warren Street is basically 2 floors. I'm not sure of the footage.
Right.
But it's not compared to a hospital. It's more like an outpatient clinic setting. That's the larger site. The next site is Ewing Street. Again, 2 floors, because you also have the pediatrics, adult medicine, and dental located there as well.
Wow.
And then once you get to Bellevue, that's 1 floor of a medical.
Yeah.
And then Chambers Street is actually the smallest, where it's in a 2-family house.
Oh, you're kidding?
No. So there's all ranges.
How do you do it? I mean, how do you treat 16,000 people, 19,000? How do you do that in that space? I was imagining a monolith, something absolutely gigantic.
No, because you have to keep in mind that community health centers are there. They're not profit, so they're not there to make money. They're there to provide service.
When did the idea of community health centers start?
Really? In the 60s with the Johnson administration. That's where community health centers originally came into play. And Henry J. Austin is going to be celebrating its 50th anniversary next year.
Really?
Yes. Since 1969.
So it was just sort of a law?
It was a concept. It was a trial basis, and it's expanded since then, where we're obviously across the country. In New Jersey, there's 24 community health centers with 134 ambulatory sites. We're managed by, we're overseen, and we work with the New Jersey Primary Care Association. So you had asked the question about how do we all kind of do best practices and things like that. So we have our state organization, and then every state has an organization, and then there's a federal community health center organization.
So this is a federal sort of mandate, and it's in every state, right?
Yes.
It's in all 52 states. So are most of the people that you see either Medicare or Medicaid?
Most of the people, so I think it is actually a combination, but it's primarily Medicaid, people who are also unable to be insured. We never turn anybody away for inability to pay, or we'll work with you financially. So the goal really is to provide service to everybody.
Yeah.
So if you don't have health care, or you're unable to receive health care for a variety of reasons, whether you can't provide the documentation that you need or things like that, there's a lot of people who don't have documentation. So they're unable to be insured or receive health care. So we will work with anybody in the community to provide them service regardless of their health care.
Yeah, so undocumentation would certainly be a reason.
Yes, people who don't have the correct
that you can't
documents to
do that.
receive it.
And that is prevalent in the Trenton area?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So because most people, I would assume, if they qualify for Medicaid, they could just receive it, and it isn't.
And if they walk in this is where the community health care wraps around people. So if they come in our doors and they don't have health care, we're able to have them sit down with somebody through Board of Social Services, meet with them to check for their eligibility when they walk in the door.
Oh my, isn't that nice?
So
Yeah.
we'll check that out to start with, and we're screening for eligibility for any number of payment sources that we may have, whether it's city money or state money or federal money.
Right.
We're screening people to make sure that they receive care regardless of their health care.
Yeah.
And that way we screen them. And again, if bottom line comes they're not eligible for anything, then we have a sliding scale, and we work with people to make sure they receive good care.
That they get some kind
Yes.
of.
We don't turn anybody away.
Yeah. Well, what the part that I think scares me the most is that we need this.
Yes.
My assumption would be that if this did not exist, would there be enough medical availability to meet this kind of demand? Like, where would those 61,000 visits get absorbed?
That's a very good question. Probably in the emergency room.
Oh, and
If you think about it.
oh goodness, 61,000 visits to the emergency room.
A lot of people who are uninsured or don't have insurance or may
Yeah.
not be aware of the healthcare center, they use the emergency room
Yeah.
to receive medical care.
So are you thinking that it could even be more than 61,000 if more people knew that it existed? And I'm talking about specifically people who use the emergency room as their primary care physician.
Right, a lot of people don't have primary care physicians.
Yeah.
They use the ED, and the goal really is we provide all services
Huh.
in a one-stop shop.
Yeah.
Where you can come in. There also was a question about how quick can you get an appointment. You can get same day or next day service.
Really?
Yes, there's not a long wait. If they have an emergency, they can call up. They can be triaged. We can make a medical recommendation on the spot at that time. If it's appropriate to be seen in the clinic, they can be seen.
Right.
If it's an emergent situation, if not, then they can be given an appointment for the next day. It's 1 or 2 days.
Right.
So
I mean,
there's
a
not
real emergency, they're going to go to the emergency room.
Right.
That's what it's for.
Right.
Like, you don't have like operating suites or any of that kind
no,
of stuff,
it is.
right?
Think of your primary care doc on steroids, because we're providing all these additional services.
He's not allowed to take steroids.
Sorry.
Even if he wants to have a career in Major League Baseball. He
Right.
always wanted to be a pitcher.
Yeah.
But he became a doctor.
There you go. But really, it is because we're able to provide pediatrics, we're able to provide adult medicine, women's health, and everything else that goes with it. Behavioral health, your clinical pharmacist,
Yeah.
all those services are in one place.
Yeah, an interesting side benefit of all this is you must employ a lot of people,
Yes.
right? How many? Do you know
We have
offhand?
about 160 plus employees
Across the four.
across the 4. And again, we have 4 additional sites too. So we are integrated with the 4 primary care sites. And then we have primary care in the mental health sites within the city. So Oaks Integrated, we have a clinic there. Catholic Charities. We have a medical clinic there,
Mm-hmm.
AAMH. We're at the Rescue Mission. So we provide medical services for the additional programs that are within the city as well.
Mm-hmm. And is this sort of like auto-funded every year by the federal government, or is
No,
it you
it
have to
is-
you have to like code this one patient at a time to get reimbursement?
So we were on the chopping block with this
When?
administration
Oh,
as far as whether they were going to continue the funding for
they're so pleasant.
community health centers. So, it needs to be renewed by Congress.
Whoa.
It needs to be approved by Congress. Every year, they have to allot monies for
Yeah,
us
yeah.
to receive, for us to provide service.
So right now, I mean, since it's December in real time,
We're good.
we're
good
talking
right now.
budget, and there's a whole budget discussion right now, right? And so every time a budget comes up, do you have to make sure you're included in it?
Right now, we are good as far as I'm aware. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, we can be chopped at any time.
And then where would all those people go for?
That's why it's really important for
Wow.
people who are in the community to vote
Uh-huh.
and be involved to
Yeah,
realize
yeah,
that a lot
yeah.
of the services are always at risk
Always at risk.
given the current administration.
Yeah. Well, whoever decides to redline something
Right.
somewhere, you're a line, so you're always
Well, all the health centers are across the country. We're a
right.
line.
This would be federal.
Yes, it would be a
This-
federal cut.
Oh, this would cut everything everywhere.
Yes, it's
Oh,
not just
goodness.
us.
Not
it would be a
just- yeah.
federal cut because we're a federal qualified health center.
Wow.
So it is across the country, nationwide, that people would lose their medical service
Oh,
in their
goodness.
communities.
See, I mean, your number was 19,000 for the number of people you see. Do you have any idea what the number is like nationwide?
I don't.
I mean, 19,000 in a city like Trenton, which
Right.
is not a huge city, but reasonably sized.
And then multiply it by the 24 sites that are in the state,
Right.
and then go outside of the state and start
Yeah.
multiplying.
Keep going. New
Yes.
York or California.
Mm-hmm.
My, oh my, oh my. That would be like probably in the millions
Yes.
of people who would not. I'll bet it's more. I'll bet it's in the tens of millions who would have no, or they'd have an 8-month wait, to get in
Exactly.
to see a local physician. We don't seem to encourage people to leave the urban area, become doctors, and then come back. They don't necessarily come back, do they?
We actually do have a number of practitioners who are of the community.
Who are from- yeah.
A lot of our staff is of the community.
That you would hope, yes.
They are of the community.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a long history there.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I understand. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back with Lee RUSZCZYK from the Henry J. Austin Health Center. And we're going to talk in the next segment, we're going to talk a little bit about what some of the challenges are and what they face on a daily basis. So there's time to hit the share button on Facebook. Do that, and we'll be back in a minute with more. Don't go away. And we are back. Before we go further, I do need to thank all the people who made donations to Age Out Angels this week. Because this is December and you're watching the show in February, I don't know who you are, so I can't thank you personally. But I will. I promise when I come back in March, I will. We thank you so very much for your generosity. Lee RUSZCZYK, Henry J. Austin Health Center. A lot is written about healthcare disparities. So what's your view, sort of from the field, when you think about healthcare disparities?
Unfortunately, there are a lot of healthcare disparities. I think one of the major challenges is the environmental factors that impact the people of Trenton. And there is a lot of trauma that they experience due to various environmental factors, which then have a significant impact on their health. So there's been a study, it's called ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences, that was done out in California. And they found that people who have experienced a lot of trauma tend to die earlier than people who haven't had the extent of trauma. So there's been a lot of studies done on this, and I think that creates one of the health disparities because people, it has a significant impact on themselves and their health.
So you're saying that studies indicate that trauma
Yes.
leads to a mortality rate,
Yes,
that it's causal,
yes.
not just corollary, but causal.
Well, trauma gets passed along also. So if you think about it, there's generational trauma, there's the day-to-day trauma that somebody experiences. So trauma gets kind of ingrained, and it makes an adjustment on the brain. Because if you think about it, when somebody is exposed to trauma, you have a fight or flight response, a fight, flight, or freeze.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you don't process all of that, what happens is your body becomes automatically responding in that manner, even though you might not be exposed to the trauma again. So you're spending your time in that sort of mindset, just kind of waiting for things to happen. And that's how we have issues in schools with kids who are experiencing environmental traumas, where they may be medicated or misdiagnosed with significant mental health issues. And a lot of it is just reactions to the things that they've seen and lived through.
Mm-hmm. Now, you're the Senior Director of Behavioral Health
Yes.
at Henry J. Austin. So we're in your wheelhouse right now, correct?
Yes.
Okay, Senior Director of Behavioral Health. Tell me like exactly what that means.
So basically what we've done at Henry J is for the past 4 years, there typically are extensive waiting lists for people who need mental health services. And we call it behavioral health because you don't necessarily need to have a mental health issue to struggle with things you need to change in your life.
Mm-hmm.
So behavioral health is looking at how things people experience, how things people go through, what they've witnessed, different traumas impact their health. And the goal is to work with people directly at their medical visit. So when they come in, we're screening for mental health issues, if they're depression, anxiety, things like that. Or if they've experienced anything, they can always ask to speak to a behavioral health person. But we're working real time with them when they are in the clinic. They don't need to come back. They don't need to go somewhere else. We're not going to send them away and refer them somewhere else. We're going to see them right at that time. So they have access to have a conversation with whatever may be going on for them at that visit and be able to process it. And that happens at all the sites. So we have a licensed clinical social worker at all our sites working with our medical team real time with adults and kids, whatever may be coming up, to work with the medical staff, again, to provide this holistic care to the people of Trenton.
Do they feel free? Do the people in an urban environment feel free to admit that they're having issues that may need to be addressed that are of mental origin?
So that's why I don't want to call it mental health, because when you say mental health, people are like, well, I'm not crazy. And the reality is although mental health and crazy don't go together, that unfortunately is where the stigma comes in.
I thought the reality was we're all crazy.
A little bit off center,
I mean, come
yes.
on, we all grew up in houses, right?
Right.
Somewhere.
Everybody
we're
has
all
a,
nuts.
Right. Everybody has a level that they've experienced something, you know, regardless of what it is.
Yeah.
So it really is about looking at the whole person and what may be going on with them emotionally, spiritually, and physically to help them be the best selves they can be.
Right.
Given who they are, where they are, what they're doing, whatever it is. There's no judgment. So I think initially there may have been some caution, and we make it really clear it's not necessary. We can provide mental health services. So we have an individual therapist on staff. We can set them up for a psychiatric when they're Henry J. Austin patients. So we can provide that range, but it really is about how do you just help the person be their best person day in and day out and be as healthy as they can be. And sometimes it's just having a release valve during a medical visit. So people, I believe, because they're used to us now, it is about them being their best selves, that it's not about them being crazy or medicating. It's just part of dealing with the whole person and there, again, there's no judgment involved. We're here to help you. We're not here to judge you. We're not here to diagnose you. We're here to help you be your best self. And given that it's kind of a judgment-free zone, to use somebody else's saying.
That'd be Planet Fitness.
Yeah.
It's okay. There'll be a sponsor
Okay,
someday.
good.
Don't worry.
Yeah. So it's a judgment-free zone. So it really is about helping them figure out where they want to go and how they want to be their best selves.
Absolutely. Do you see a lot of like the results of complex childhood trauma then manifesting in various behaviors that would be considered maladaptive, if for want of a better word? I mean, you're the pro here.
I don't know
I'm
that-
just doing sidewalk psychology here.
So I think we need to realize is that everybody's coping mechanism works at some point until it doesn't work.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so the coping mechanism people come up with does work at some point until it just stops working, and then it becomes problematic for the person. And it's important for them to recognize that coping mechanisms do stop working eventually. So maladaptive, I think that's a judgment term.
Okay.
I think it's coping mechanisms are working for people, and until they don't work anymore and it becomes problematic and they come in and they say, you know what, this isn't working for me anymore. Can you help? Yeah, we can.
And this would just all be sort of part of an initial intake.
Well, it's not even an intake. You come in and see your medical doc. We're going to ask you some questions. They ask you medical questions. They ask you questions about depression, anxiety, alcohol, substance use, whatever it may be. And we're going to have conversations around those things.
Then you take
So
it
it's
from
part of their primary care visit.
Yeah.
So it's how we do business now.
So, you know, in your situation as a nonprofit, I'm sure you suffer sort of from the same ailment that every other nonprofit in the world suffers from, which is not really having a thorough budget to get out and say what you do well to publicize, you know, what you do to the public. So if someone decides to write something, say negative, you know, about the system or one of your places or one of your doctors or something like that, you don't have a built-in money fund to present your point of view.
We actually do have a communication person, which is in addition to our staff.
Okay.
In order to try to help people realize the depth of service that we're able to provide. So you know this, you know, you say one negative thing that lasts forever compared to 10 positive things.
That's right.
You know, so we actually do have a person that's working on that, and we work very closely with the community to try to manage whatever may occur that may be perceived as negative.
Now, we'll see, one of the things that gets written a lot, especially when it comes to pediatric behavioral health, is misdiagnoses and then too much use of psychotropic medications, so that don't ultimately treat what it is that the child really has, because they're not
It's related to trauma.
recognizing PTSD or you know or any kind of stuff like that.
So we're different than specialty care because we're tied to the pediatrician. Okay, so if there is a child who may need a psychiatric evaluation, we're going to send that off-site. So the goal really is to work with the parent and the pediatrician to see what's going on. We're not there to put heavy-duty diagnoses on kids. The goal really is to figure out what's going on within their environment and work with the parent and the pediatrician and the family to best service them without tagging a huge heavy-duty diagnosis on the kid.
So you try to go without the diagnosis, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And the first goal is not medication. From our standpoint,
Yeah.
you know, that's not, the goal is really because of the trauma, because of, you know, kids who parents don't have documents and they're being deported, and these kids are reacting to trauma, you know, so the goal really is to figure out how to help them cope in positive ways and to give them services at our health center to help them figure out how to cope with these things that are happening in their lives
Yeah.
without laying out medicine or heavy-duty diagnosis. Now, obviously, if somebody needs it, we'll help them get to where they need to go, but that is not the primary goal.
Yeah. Well, I guess, you know, when you think about it, just it's fundamental depression, can certainly be treated with chemistry. I mean, that's right. I mean,
It can be.
that's something that exists in an evidence-based environment. You know, that sort of thing. It's just like you said, when you see a child who acts out in school, or has certain triggers that cause them to behave in a certain way, which may seem a little antisocial or overly aggressive. I guess we have to be very careful how we characterize.
Yes,
You know.
because the diagnosis stays with the person throughout their career. Okay, and my philosophy as far as treatment is concerned is to just see what's going on in the environment. We do, for anybody who's 12 to 18 years old, we do a risk assessment. So every adolescent that comes in, we're doing a risk assessment for depression, anxiety, bullying, if they're having suicidal ideation, do they have a safe person in their life, things like that. Those are the conversations that we're having with them, rather than giving them a heavy-duty mental health diagnosis.
Do you do an ACE evaluation on everyone, or when you need to?
When we need to, we do. In one of our programs, we're going to be starting direct screening for post-traumatic stress disorder
Okay.
in order to identify that and start to treat it. But the adolescents, we are screening everybody who comes in to identify that, and then having conversations with them, and if approved, their parents, so
Right.
we can really talk about what's going on.
Because I mean, I've seen that test, and the questions are just brutal. I mean, and they're meant to elicit facts.
Those are real life questions.
they're
for
real life
things people
Can you-
are experiencing.
Can you tell the people what some of those questions are? Do you know? We could get it on screen.
So some of the questions are: have you lived with somebody who has substance abuse? Has there been somebody who's been incarcerated in your life? Have you experienced any kind of physical or sexual abuse? All the difficult things that people live through.
They're
it
horrible.
asks you about.
Yes. And
But these are real life issues and real life situations that a lot. So the reality is most people have experienced at least one trauma in their life.
sure.
Okay, and then you just start to add on multiple things that happen to people. So this is life. While the questions may seem abrupt or difficult, we're having conversations about questions and things that are happening to people.
Yeah.
We're not sweeping it under the carpet. We're saying, yeah, you know what? This stuff happens to people. So how can we help you with it?
Yeah, and the only way to do that is to sort of get it out in the open, huh?
Well, it's people, the goal really is to just give somebody a platform to be able, if they want to, talk. And if you keep asking a question, it provides a safe environment for somebody to have a conversation. And you have to let somebody know it's okay to have a conversation before they feel safe enough to have it.
Yeah.
So if you never ask a question, you are never going to get an answer.
Right.
Now, if you keep asking the same question, eventually the person's going to realize, you know what, maybe this person really wants to know about what's going on with me, and it's okay for me to say something. And that's the environment that we want to provide to our clients and our patients, so that regardless of whatever they're going through, we're here to help, not judge. Okay? Life is tough.
Yeah.
We get it. We've gone through it. Everybody's gone through something different. We're a safe place for you to have a conversation.
Absolutely true. So what's your feeling about the various medications relating to the opioid epidemic? What is it, Suboxone?
So we actually do work with people who have opioid addictions. We have a medication-assisted treatment program for people who have opiate addictions. So it's done in a primary care setting, again, to reduce the stigma. So you're not going to know, walking in our clinic, sitting in our waiting room, who's there for whatever purpose.
Right.
They're coming in and they're being treated in a primary care setting. So that way it feels safe and secure, and it reduces the level of stigma. So we have 6 providers who are waivered. You have to get a special waiver in order to prescribe Suboxone. We have 6 medical providers who are able to prescribe it. Our chief medical officer, Dr. Rachel Evans, oversees the program. And we work with people who have opiate addictions on a regular basis.
It seems to be so prevalent that, I mean, there's discussion about, how everybody should have Narcan or something,
People
with them.
who are prescribed opiates really should have Narcan, so that way if there's an accidental overdose or somebody gets their medicine, they can be okay.
Oh, are
They can
you
be
saying
reversed.
if you're you saying that no matter what your socioeconomic basis is, if there's opioids in your house, y- what's the big deal? Have some Narcan
Yes.
just in case.
Well, because you never know who's going to go in your medicine cabinet
Right.
when they come into your house.
Right.
You never know who can get into something. And it is a reversal that's available for people who are on opiate medicine taking it appropriately.
Right.
You know, accidents happen.
Absolutely. And if you're listening right now and you do decide to get Narcan, you should also get a little bit of training and make sure you know how to administer it. And remember that if you ever do administer it to you, you're supposed to call 911 also right away, because it wears off faster than the opioid does. And that person can find themselves right back into overdose.
But I think it's a backup that we want to make sure that people who are prescribed opiates have available to them. And it doesn't imply
Yeah.
any sort of addiction attached to it whatsoever. It's a protection.
Absolutely. So are you seeing an uptick in that service that you're providing to
The
for
medication-assisted
opioid
treatment?
addiction? Well, yeah.
Yeah, we have probably about 200 people that we see on a regular basis that we work with regarding opiate addictions. And we work very closely with our partners in the community
Yeah.
to make sure people are serviced and they receive what they need.
Yeah, you have to want to. That's something that you really have to want to. You can't force that on a person.
The goal really is for somebody, for us to be available when that person asks
Right.
for help. Because that is the opportunity. When somebody walks in the door and says, I need help, we want to be available to provide that to them.
Yeah. Now, do you see that number trending up? Are there more than there were 2 years ago?
Yes, we have seen that number trend up. And
'Cause-
it will continue to trend up.
Because we talk about how, yes, you could be opioid addicted even if you're a millionaire. You know, what difference does it make? Anybody can have an opioid addiction, but you're not treating the millionaires.
No,
You
we are
know?
not treating the million, because typically people who are in full-blown addiction aren't millionaires anymore.
Exactly. That's the one thing that can take your million away,
Exactly.
right? That and gambling.
Yes.
The two things that can hurt you. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to, let's talk about hopeful messages of the future and how we can make everything bright and rosy.
There we go.
Make this tree behind us look like it belongs there. There's still time to share on Facebook. We'll be back in 1 minute. Don't go away. And we are back with Lee RUSZCZYK from the Henry J. Austin Health Center. Hey, if you have an employee giving fund or matching gifts foundation associated with your place of work, we would certainly appreciate your contacting us and telling us how we can participate in that. Private message me on Facebook or email to me directly at greg@ageoutangels.org. And I want to remind everyone that you can donate to Age Out Angels every time you make a purchase from Amazon. All you have to do is designate Age Out Angels to be your Amazon Smile designee, and a portion of your payment will go directly to Age Out Angels without it costing you 1 penny more. Do you take public donations at Henry J. Austin? Are you on Amazon Smile?
We are.
Oh, okay. So we can share with
Yes, we
the
are on
Henry J. Austin.
We are on Amazon
You want to know
Smile.
something funny? Here you go. Pick a charity, right? Pick a local charity,
yes.
right? And in some ways, it almost doesn't matter which one you give to, because it all ends up, funneling its way into the betterment of the community. So we're happy to share
Thank you.
our Amazon Smile donations with the Henry J. Austin Health Center. But if you would like to go directly to our designation, I can make it easy for you. All you have to do is contact me either via Facebook or greg@ageoutangels.org, and I can send you a link that will take you directly to our designation. So where are we going with all this, Lee? Is this just going to be a situation that keeps ballooning in numbers so that more and more and more people strain your services? I mean, is there a way to reverse the trend, I think, is what I'm very poorly asking.
So I think it really is going to be about collaboration and additional integration. And I think we're in a movement towards that. When we started doing integration probably about 4 years ago, ourselves and another FQHC were really the only healthcare centers in New Jersey doing it. And through grants through the Nicholson Foundation, they've expanded it to 6 more centers, and there's another grant. So I think it's about collaboration within the community. I think it's about not compartmentalizing people's care. And I think that trend is going to continue to, maximize visits, maximize services, provide people, the best care possible. I think the trend is away from compartmentalizing care. And I think given that trend, I think we're moving in the right direction.
You used the word community, right? And it's a word that we're hearing a lot now. We're hearing community schools, right? We're hearing community policing. Is this in that vein? Is that what we're talking about?
And I think that's what's happened with Henry J. Austin. I mean, we've gone from 4 sites into an additional 4 sites in the mental health. We now have a mobile van. We're also working with the Trenton school system.
Yeah.
So we continue to expand out into the community to provide service to them. So I think that needs to be an ongoing trend. And we work very closely with our partners within the community to try to, with the Trenton Health Team, Capital Health, Catholic Charities, Oaks Integrated, to really try to make sure we are collaborating and coordinating to provide people the best care possible rather than compartmentalizing anything.
Right. So when you talk about collaborating, you're talking about working with other nonprofits
Yes.
in the community who provide complementary services or the same service. I mean, what do you look for in a partner?
We're looking for people who are willing to partner.
Okay.
That's really what it's about.
Well, I could certainly see like any nonprofit could be a feeder organization to the services that you offer.
Well, we just had to sit down with Bo Robinson and Mercer County Corrections to talk about services that we can provide to people who are coming out of incarceration. So we are open to work with any agency to see how to best. Again, it's all about servicing the community. So how can we partner, work with them? How can we get people what they need?
So that's what you just described is what we call reentry.
Yes.
Right? When they leave prison and they re-enter, and you'd have to figure that they're completely lost when it comes to health care at that point.
Exactly.
Depending on how long they've been in for.
Exactly.
I hear horror stories about dental, that children and adults are not getting, and it's not a slam on you, it's just in general are not getting, dental needs.
Well, we
addressed.
also have so our dentist and our dental department are very aware of getting people to be educated about the importance of getting dental service very, very early. So they have started a program where they're working with pediatrics to educate moms and dads about the importance of starting with dental very early rather than waiting until things are really bad. So I think it's just a matter of people being educated. That's really all I think it comes down to. Do people know? Do they know how things work? Do they know that it really is really helpful to get their child, to be looked at by a dental associate early?
Right.
Rather than waiting until they're 5 or 6 or until their teeth are really bad. It's better to be proactive rather than reactive. And I think it's just about providing information to people.
Yeah.
And that's really what our goal is. Again, same thing with behavioral health. Let's have a conversation before it gets really bad. Same thing with nutrition or the clinical pharmacist. Our clinical pharmacists work tightly with our medical providers to, educate people about their medications. So it's about providing information.
Are any of these health centers not in urban areas? Are there suburban locations for some of these as well?
Well, I think we need to keep in mind is that there are people who, yes, is the answer, the short answer to the question, because also there are people who can't get to services because they're in rural areas.
Right.
Okay. So that's why we have telehealth and telemedicine, for people who can't get to community health centers. There's technology to help do those types of things. So again, people can get service. So it spans urban, rural, suburban. It really is about providing people who don't have or unable to get, or actually choose us because we provide a boatload of services and really good quality services. So we're there for everybody.
Yeah, and I guess it's helpful to just like to do what you're doing today to get the word out.
Yes.
This is the sort of thing, and of course, anything that we can do to help you do that, we're more than happy to. When I was doing some research, I found this cute little acronym, BCHC. It stands for Big City Health Centers. And apparently they have meetings and everything. Are you familiar at all?
No.
Okay. So they had a big meeting. All right. It's the meeting of Big City Health Centers.
Okay.
Maybe Trenton wasn't invited. I don't know. But they identified barriers that they face in their work. And one of the barriers that they said, if you would, I'd like you to address these individually, if you would. So the first one that they said was insufficient funding.
Well, we already had that discussion. So the reality is our funding needs to be approved by Congress, and
well, yes, that in an ongoing basis it does, but do you have enough?
There's never enough. There's never enough. Look, the reality is we have it through a variety of sources, but like any nonprofit, the bottom line is tight, and yes, we can always benefit from more funding. There would be no way I would ever say, no, we don't need more funding.
So you get funding from the federal government.
Yes.
You also raise money privately?
We have grants that we get through private organizations and foundations. We get city funding. We get state funding. So wherever we can get funding, we work to get funding.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned the Nicholson Foundation. I think they're a New Jersey funder, if I'm not mistaken.
They are.
Yeah.
They're a big proponent of integrated care.
Okay. Well, we did talk about this one, political challenges.
Yes. I think that's a 5-letter word right now.
Is the well, that's on the federal level, right? On the local level, we just had a change in.
So on the local level, I have to say that there has been a lot of partnerships going on. People who are providing service are being brought to the table regarding regulations, setting up licensing, things like that. New Jersey Primary Care Association is very involved in that politically to work together to make sure that all these pieces fit together.
So how nasty is the bureaucracy of all of this? Now, it looks like we have a new governor who might be a little simpatico when it comes to the needs of people in urban areas.
Bureaucracy is bureaucracy. I wouldn't say it's horrible. I have to say that I've been in this field about 30 years, and the current bureaucracy that I'm involved in is the most receptive that I've been exposed to throughout my time in this field. So again, we're being invited to sit down with people who are making rules and regulations, and we're giving suggestions, and we're being heard and listened to. So while the bureaucracy is what it is, we also have a seat at the table.
Well, one of the things that they cited as an obstacle was lack of understanding of issues by key decision makers. So I don't want you to say if that's true or false. What I want you to do is, assuming I'm a key decision maker or someone in our audience is, what would you want them to know? What would be the important things that you would want to use your minute and a half of getting to speak to a very important person?
I would like for them to please bring the people who are providing services to a seat at the table and get their input and their information and put that in collaboration with whatever decisions need to be made.
So
that's my request.
That's interesting, yeah.
The people who are actually doing the service, bring them to the table, have the conversations, get the information, incorporate that into your decision making.
Right. So I mean, what you're saying is have panels with primary care physicians, right? Behavior therapists and addiction specialists, all of the stakeholders in that group, and just listen.
And then you're making an informed decision.
Right.
And you have the information from boots on the ground. Yeah. Because it's boots on the ground that are doing the work, and that's where you need to get your information from. Fantastic.
And the last thing that they mentioned actually scared me a little bit. The last thing that they mentioned was workforce competency. What do you see an availability of trained workforce for your needs? Or are you in a situation where you have to do extensive training to get people up to speed on what they need to be doing?
So I think workforce competency is more about availability than competency. For example, we've had a position open for a psychiatric provider for 2 years. We've had to go with a telepsychiatry kind of venue in order to work that out. So I think there are different pockets of providers where there's just not enough. So mental health is a big one. Psychiatry is a big one.
Well, then, if you're talking about telepsychiatry, are we talking about the same thing here, where like they would have their treatment meeting like over Skype or something
Yes.
like that? That's becoming more and more popular.
Because it's very hard to find providers
Yeah.
in the area to provide the service. So you need to use technology to be able to provide the service.
And so, do you do that? Do you?
Yes,
do
we
you-
have
you
a
actually do that?
telepsychiatry provider
Wow.
because we've been able to get a in-person psychiatry provider.
So would people then come into the office and
Yes.
sort of have a room where there's a computer and that's
Exactly.
like a secure,
Yes.
right? It should
It's
be.
all HIPAA compliant, it's all
Yeah.
private, it's all secure.
Yeah.
But it's what we're using to provide service.
That's absolutely fascinating. And on the sort of support levels, I'm assuming you find plenty.
The reality
help.
is the people, and I do want to give a shout out to the Henry J. Austin staff because they are a total group of dedicated employees that do this work day in and day out. So
It's tough being in the trenches sometimes.
they are dedicated
Yeah.
employees that do this work.
It really is. I talk to people who do that work, from time to time. And they're not impressed with like long meetings and things like that and theorizing and statistics even, but because they're just living it every day.
And they just want to provide the best service. They're dedicated. They
Yeah.
have the heart for it. They want to provide the best care and service to the people who come in our doors.
Is there a burnout from that? I mean, is there a typical point where people go, you know what, 5 years, 7 years, I can't believe, can't believe I'm still here.
The administration of Henry J. Austin has been working very hard to be mindful of the own trauma that happens by being
Yeah.
in that setting.
Yeah.
So in the past few years, they've worked very hard to address the burnout issue to prevent it.
That's exactly what you just said. The word that you used. It's kind of a secondary trauma to be in that, and of course healing is what's required there. Lee RUSZCZYK, Senior Director of Behavioral Health at the Henry J. Austin Health Center. Been an absolute pleasure. I'm just so glad I got this radio show, so you and I would have a chance to sit
Thank you
down
so
for an
much
hour
for having us on and
and
being able
talk.
to discuss these.
Yeah, and if we
these
can,
issues.
if we can ever help get some people into one of your programs, I think the only thing that will happen is that it'll be good.
Yes.
It'll be a win-win. Keep them out of the emergency room. Some
exactly.
preventive, right? I mean, because that's really what we're
Yes.
talking about here. About
Yes.
staying out of the emergency room
Right.
isn't just making a doctor's
No.
appointment. It's about preventive health.
It's about learning
Right.
about what you need to do for yourself
Yeah.
to be your best self.
Is there a website or a donation button or something that you'd like to tell everyone to go to?
So www.hjahc.
HJA. I had it up here and now I don't. I'm sorry because I have information from the BCHC, the Big City Health Centers.
If you Google Henry J. Austin, it'll come up.
Henry J. Austin. It actually does come up. Henry.
Yes.
Just Google Henry J. Austin. Yeah. If you have Medicare or Medicaid and you don't have a primary care physician, this is something that you would want to be in touch with immediately.
Or if you don't have health care coverage.
Oh, yes. If you
For
don't
those
have
people
it
who
at
don't
all.
have health care coverage, we're there
Absolutely.
for them as well.
Yeah. We're going to take another short break, and I'll be back in just a minute with some final thoughts. There's still time to hit the share button, though, because my final thoughts are going to be absolutely incredible. You won't want to miss them. Don't go away. And we are back. I do want to give you that website specifically so that you can go there. It's www.henryjaustin.org. Henry, Henryj, the letter J, Austin, AUSTIN.org. henryjaustin.org. If you don't have a primary care physician, you're in the Trenton area, or if you don't have health care, this is something that you would want to get in touch with immediately. And I believe you could also probably go to this website and make a nice donation, and that would be good for your soul. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay.
It's always good for the soul.
Lee is still with me to listen to my final words here. You know, I have to tell you, I'm just a little bit distressed, and I'll tell you why. Lately, I have met almost exclusively youth who are aging out of foster care without a transition plan. And I should just pause and let that sink in for a second, because it is so nasty. It is a horrible way to enter the world without a transition plan. It's very bad. And I'll tell you who's good. Who's good are the youth that I'm meeting have very good people who are supporting them now. People from various care management organizations, people from CASA. Those are the folks who are calling me saying, I know this young person who is aging out of the system and doesn't have a transition plan. These are people who don't have to do that. They're sort of going above and beyond what their roles are in the youth's life to look after them and protect them, because their involvement has to end the day the youth ages out. When these people become 21 years old, when these youths become 21 years old, it's over. All of the systems that they have, their Perform Care, their CMO, their CASA advocate, all those people go away. Perform Care actually may continue on if they do it correctly. But all of that goes away when they turn 21 years old. And they are left with essentially nothing. So imagine being sent away with your clothes in a garbage bag out into the world, and you have absolutely nothing. You have nowhere to sleep that night. You have no source of food. You have the clothing that you have, and you know it's all going to get ripe in a couple of days if you don't find a shower, a place to have proper hygiene. And I don't know, I guess I try to make jokes occasionally because it's so horrible to imagine. And personally, you know, I remember what it's like. I remember being kicked out of a house in a snowstorm at the age of 11 at 10 o'clock at night with my suitcase. I know what that feels like. So think about these children who are in the foster care system because they suffered abuse or neglect. And then they're traumatized further by being yanked out of their biological homes and placed in foster care, and then get kicked out into the street. And it's just not fair. They come in all shapes and sizes. You know, some have a job, one doesn't, one's in school, the other one isn't, one drives, most don't. I mean, if you think about it, for a person who doesn't drive, their only choice is to live in some kind of an urban center where there is public transportation. Transportation's a huge issue. So, I mean, what we try to do at Age Out Angels is address their four sort of basic needs: housing, food, clothing, job, school. Start there, you know, and then see if there's time to help them with other things down the road. But it would be awfully nice if the people in Child Protective Services would give them a transition plan before they're in crisis. The whole move towards the Family First Prevention Act is one of prevention. That's in the title. And that goes into effect in October of 2019. And here we have a chance to prevent horrible disaster. We have a chance to prevent the foster care to prison pipeline, because that's what this promotes. You know, if you're hungry, you're going to steal, right? You know that. You know, if it's raining and you have no place to stay, you're going to trespass. These are things you are going to be driven to do. I would do them. You would do them. Anyone would do them. So what I'm hopeful for is that we will come to a time when children, every child, exits the foster care system with a proper transition plan. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another hour talking about youth who should matter more in our political and economic discourse than they do. And we thank you so much for tuning in and maybe helping us spread the word. Again, we offer humble thanks to Hamilton Radio, to my most excellent guest, Lee RUSZCZYK, Senior Director of Behavioral Health at the Henry J. Austin Center. Thanks to our engineer, Doc G. Music provided by Kurt Seldemridge, owner and operator of the Cave Rehearsal Recording Space in Pennsylvania. Our webmaster is Carmen Garcia Valera. Our social media specialist is Bailey Braverman. Join me next Monday, March 4th, with some very special guests. So until then, let's make this week the best week ever. Have a great evening.